You are listening to an exclusive interview on Bass Musician Magazine. The interview starts now. This is Momo coming to you live from Bass Musician Magazine, and it is with great pleasure that for this February 2019 issue, here on the cover, I bring you an undeniable pillar in R&B, soul, and hip-hop when it comes to bass playing, from Aretha Franklin to Justin Timberlake and Outkast. Actually, the list is quite long. Mary J. Blige, Joss Stone, Luther Vandross, Jamiroquai, James Brown, Stevie Wonder, Ray Charles, The Temptations, Tommy Dorsey, The Beach Boys, Barry White, Patti LaBelle, George Duke, and even Snoop Dogg. Boy, bro, you've been around, you've done so much stuff. You are one of the rare old school guys who is truly comfortable and has evolved between the different genres of music from the very beginning. Kevin Brandino Brandon, my friend, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Oh, we cool, Momo. How you doing?
So tell me, how did you first start to even get into this bass journey for yourself? How did you start loving and knowing that you were going to become a bass player that you are today?
First instrument I started on was my sister's taught me piano at 4 and 5. Then my brother moved me to saxophone at 7. Mm-hmm. I wanted to play drums because my handicap, my father said, he don't think it would be a good idea. So I was enlisted in my family band at 9 years old. The real journey is I was a Shriners Hospital patient since I was 13 months old until 5-6 years old. I was one of the first kids admitted into that hospital that basically opened up in 1954. I got released in 1959, if I'm not mistaken. My father was around the time I had a birthday party, Mickey Mouse cake that we bought for the war. Because back then you used to have at least about 30 kids in the war. So they cut it up and we're all eating stuff, because now I'm getting to go home and live with my parents. So at this point, my father took me to see Louis Armstrong.
Oh.
And we went to the Palladium. I remember going there, I'm sitting on my father's shoulders, he's got me like this, so I'm seeing this concert. And I'm seeing him going through, hello, darling, and doing all this stuff, and, he was sweating like crazy with the handkerchief and all that. All I know is that afterwards, my father was able to get through security. I remember him telling my father, man, you got a cute son, implying to me and all that. That's my twist of fame, I guess, when I first got enlisted into this musical world of wonderness that we live in. You dig?
Louis Armstrong, such an amazing thing.
Remember that concert, man. That was the impression of my life.
Every musician waits for that first very big break that they get. The one that's going to change their destiny and that's going to make it happen for them for the years that follow. What was your first big break like that?
When I joined the Tommy Dorsey Orchestra, that music wasn't the most favorite music I would want to play, but it got me out of here, got me out of the hood, and got me to go to New York. So when I got in New York, basically I'm in 74, it's blistering, man. When you got, Gene Bernicini playing all that stuff on his guitar, all the jazz stuff, all the Italian guitar players back there, and then you got stuff coming up. And that's when Steve Gadd first got to New York. You had that melting pot of all this different kind of music going on, man. So once I went there, stayed with the band basically, 6 months, and went all around every little small town and went to Japan. Since I did what the old guys had done, doing big band on a bus, pulling a bass arm 6 times a fucking day, because you're young, you're 118 pounds, and you're picking up, but it's no big thing, because you have the front seat of the bus. You're not going to leave that bass on the bus.
I love the way your bass got priority on the front of the bus. That is particularly funny. Would you say that working with Dorsey was the place that really got your road chops, your arrangement chops? This was a big lesson for you right there, right?
What it did was, when I came in town, people associated, I'm coming from New York, because I was basically, Willard Alexander is the place that did all the big bands. They even did Aretha, the old school stuff. When I got off the road as well, he played big band. And he got off the road with that. So they said, okay, well, you can call this guy to do this. And then you start doing all the rehearsal bands. And then, you go from the bottom up. Some of my elders were telling me when they grew up back east, there was all these jazz clubs. And I couldn't build up my endurance on my upright bass unless I played it every night. So by going on the road, it actually developed my hands. I was using basically 100 watts in a big band. Most acoustic guys, they're using an Ampeg B15 with 30 watts, and I got 100 watts with a Walter Woods with 212s. I'm in love, man.
1978 to 2000, you were with the Queen of Soul, Aretha Franklin. How did you end up in the seat over there for so long? Amazing.
James Jamerson Sr. was playing the gig, and he was going through some health situations. A drummer, Harold Mason, out of Michigan, I think Kalamazoo, I did a lot of shows with him. Mm-hmm. There was a call for Goldie Hawn and Chevy Chase doing something at one of the TV movies, and they were doing either a promo for a movie or whatever, trailer, so they had a big band. So they called H.B. Barnum, the famous producer. I got a call from Harold, or from the answering service, Arlen's. Back in the day, they used to put calls out for session about doing this hit. So I got a 61 or 62 jazz bass, with a little thin neck and all that, and had approached me and said, I'm the MD for Aretha Franklin. Do you ever go on the road? I said, well, I'll go on the road depending on how much the money is. So he kind of sit there and laughed. I had went and auditioned in Reno. Mm-hmm. Basically, they were putting a band together. So I auditioned, and I guess I got the gig from Reno's audition, whatever, doing 3 nights. So I get a call. I got, about 7 or 8 gigs. So he gives me a price, and I go, oh, man, you want me to do all these 8 gigs for this amount of money? So he turned around to me and said, no, stupid. He said, that's for each gig. Each gig. I said, well, hell yeah, I'll take the gig. He said, well, put it in your book. That year, basically, we did like 8 to maybe 10 real big concerts that they're billing Quincy Jones Orchestra. Now you got Louis Johnson on the road doing all this stuff like that with Quincy and all that. And I'm laughing my ass off because I told him I had to learn his licks on the songs that he played on Aretha's record. And I said, I got to do that, and I'm older than you, and I got to do your shit. He's laughing about it, because we both bought our Music Mans at the same time.
What was it like working with such an amazing force, such as Aretha?
Basically, Riri's Riri. There's only one. There's only going to be one. And when she sings, and she really want to sing, okay, when I say sing, people understand what I'm talking about. Your whole body and your mind kind of relives what she's been through or whatever, all that pain. And it goes really to the deep roots of the African American situation, period. Period. It's that deep. When you hear it, it's like when she's telling you a story. Just by the way she inflects the words. And she might not sing the same song the same way. Because she'll inflect different versions depending on how she feels. Working with her, the whole thing about me is that I replaced James Jamerson, and there wasn't really a lot of upright on that gig to really do, since I had the big band concept and played the gig on upright. I could do it on electric. It's not a big thing. That's easy for me. Your personality basically forms with the instrument that you're using at that time. Like, with all those instruments you got behind you, whatever, I see about 5 or 6 guitars. Every time you pick up one guitar or another, it makes you play and feel differently.
Yes, sir. Can you remember one of your favorite moments of all time working with the Queen Aretha?
Playing for the Queen of England.
The virtual Queen of England.
The Queen playing for the Queen.
I
was there.
You're in the fucking palace in fucking England playing for the Queen with the Queen?
It was Aretha Franklin, Sammy Davis Jr., and Pearl Bailey. Us 3 playing for the Queen of England. Seriously.
Did you get to have some royal tea while you were waiting before you got to play?
They shipped us in and shipped us out, You talking, that's royalty stuff, man. You know, we just the slaves on the side in the band. That's how it works.
I just want to ask you one more thing in regards to Aretha. Do you remember, like, something that Aretha could have said to you that affected you in a way that you carry with you still today?
Well, what happened is I was always the guy that had to go get the food.
Okay.
I said, why don't one of you guys go know you do? Aretha likes you, Kev. So I was always the pigeon out there. Miss Franklin, how you doing, Riri? I'm doing, Kev. You guys sound good, man. You have the pots and pans going on in the band. And I said, well, you know, the guys are real hungry out there. Okay, Kev, I'll have Joe and whoever else was the security guards take something that's in her room. She got all kind of food, you know, presents, blah, blah, flowers. I mean, it's fit for a queen. It's like it just, here. She tell one of the security guys, carry out something, whatever, big pan of chicken, fried chicken, or whatever they had in the room. Basically, there was so many presents you can hardly go. You just walk into a room of presents, okay? As long as we played real good, the bottom line after the gig, everything was always okay.
Did she ever come down on anybody in the band because they weren't playing good or something wasn't up to her liking? Or
yeah, we've done, I think it's called Wolf Trap in D.C., or it might have been the Look Around. They have one on Long Island that the stage goes around. Liza Minnelli's done that. I played it with Liza Minnelli and Ben Vereen and other people. Yeah, she stopped us one time and stopped the whole band.
Oh!
And she said, these people are paying a lot of money to see this concert.
Oh!
She stopped the whole thing, reprimand, and then she's get on the piano.
Is this live or in rehearsal?
This is live in a concert.
Oh, right in the middle of the concert.
Yeah, nah, man. The queen is the queen.
Damn, that is amazing. You also winded up working with some of the world's top R&B hip-hop artists, from Justin Timberlake, Outkast, will.i.am on some, massive songs. Let's start with Justin Timberlake here. Give us some cool insight on some different moments on working with that project. Did you enjoy working with Justin?
A lot of time, because I'm one of the older people in the string section or whatever, they'll allow me to walk in, or I ask permission to walk in to hear the bass underneath the whole bed. When we did the Grammys, when he did it with Jay-Z and Beyonce, somebody tapped me on the shoulder, and it was him, and he goes, Kev, I'm glad to see you. I got a little laryngitis, but I'll be okay tonight. He says, I'm glad to see you. So the mark that I made with him, we've never really sat down, which I would love to do that, just talking to him. But he's endorsed the Shriners Hospitals. He does golf tournaments and all that. And one day I said, can I talk to you, Justin? And he was in there with some of the producers and all that. They were sitting there listening to the mix and strings. I said, I just want to let you know, I'm one of the first kids. When they opened up the LA chapter of Shriners Hospital in 54, I'm one of the first kids. And I said, I appreciate the work that you do with Shriners.
That's real cool.
Humility, being humble, all that stuff, that goes a long way, especially in this business, because it can always be taken away as fast as you get it.
That is exactly.
To lose it, then you better not abuse it. You dig?
When I found out that you got to work with Outkast, I was particularly excited. You got any cool stories or flashbacks from any of the Outkast sessions?
I got a call from Benjamin Wright, who's an orchestrator, great arranger, producer that I work with. He said, I got this track that I'm doing. I'm talking with Andre 3000, and he wants some acoustic bass. So he puts him on the phone, and they said, we want to do the session tonight. So we go in. I meet at midnight. We're in a heat wave. 102, 105 degrees. He played 3 songs or 4 songs for me. I started playing A Flower Is a Love Something. And it's one of those teardroppers, and I'm playing with the bow. So I started playing it for him. And he goes, man, I like jazz. Coltrane, blah, blah, blah. And I said, okay, well, we'll get along real good. I said, well, let's work out a concept. You sing what you want me to play. That way you wrote the part, so I'm not writing the song. Basically, I built the same part 4 times. So it would give it depth down there.
Orchestral style.
I did that because he wasn't the type of guy that wanted everything all at one time. He wanted certain stuff at certain times to come in. And especially on acoustic bass, on some of the beds, a lot of times I'll double track. I'll use the original note, and since I got a low B because I got 5 strings, low B and C, sometimes I'll do that. We did that on the song For Will I Am, the one that was broadcasted from NASA, from Mars.
There's a song called Reach for the Stars.
Yeah.
I know that you're part of some really cool stuff, but this is the next level shit, right?
Right. You know, it's a typical release, you know, can't talk about the project because they don't know when they're going to release it, and you don't mess with marketing thing.
Yeah.
I don't hear nothing for a year and a half or something, and I get called by the contractor.
Okay.
Hey Kev, how you doing? She says, "Go, you got a desktop?" I said, "Yeah." So she gives me the URL and I turn it on, man. It was like within 24 hours, 1 million people have heard this thing. Listen to it. I'm going, bum, bum, bum. I say, yeah, that sounds like my bass.
You know, talk about a kind of an achievement feeling. Playing with Aretha Franklin, some of the greatest hip-hop players on earth, the Queen of England, and hearing your work coming from fucking planet Mars to Earth. This is a kind of accomplishment, inner tingling feelings that very few people will ever.
Momo, and knowing how you are, I knew you would appreciate that. Because you're going to have that kind of vision to even trip about what that means, you know. This one's a good one. It's like Frank Sinatra singing New York, New York. That's how this is. Because it's the first one that's ever been broadcasted by anybody from Mars down here via internet.
Okay, so now here's an interesting question I want to ask you. If you're working with a lot of older, classic kind of guys that are used to just doing things a certain ways, and then you got the new guys who just like fucking spit riffs out in fucking 2 seconds and just say, here, play some shit, don't worry, I'm going to chop it around, you know, like.
The only way you adapt to each situation as a different situation. When you adapt like that, you go in there with a fresh attitude, no preconceived whatever's going to happen.
It's interesting because you're saying it does not matter to you. And actually, that's a really good answer because to you, you just want to play bass and do what's best for the song, put in the Brandino touch.
Right.
And I don't think everybody actually does that. Like a lot of people will kind of chameleon and change and adapt to the different kind of people and personalities. And you're just Brandino all the time, man.
Like talk about Marcus. Marcus is a great player. Marcus is Marcus. Got all these clones. And you always tell them, man, nobody wants a clone. They want the real deal. And if they want Marcus, they'll call Marcus. Because Marcus can do Marcus. Because Marcus is Marcus. So the bottom line is I tell people, you got to find you. You got to do you. Don't be, you can't do me. I was always going to be me. I do me. I've been doing me since the beginning of time.
Thanks for basing out with us here on BassMusicianMagazine.com.